Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to session number 4 at the Virtual SAM Administrators Institute. You are in the session on educator shortages, steps in the right direction. I'm Kirk Miller, the Executive Director of School Administrators of Montana, and participant in many efforts over the last 5 or 6 years around recruitment and retention efforts that are out there. And I'm joined today on our panel by Angela McLean and Dennis Parman. And I'll have each of them introduce themselves here in just a moment. But I want to let you know that Rise for Montana is an effort that is the education partners of MPEC, as well as the deans of Montana State University and University of Montana, and Angela McLean representing the Office of the Commissioner of Higher Education. And that group has been in place since 2016, working on all things around recruitment and retention. The other 2 efforts that I would want to call out here, and we'll all speak to these, are the Montana University System Rural Recruitment and Retention Task Force, which was in operation from 2018 to 2020. And Angela McLean was the chairperson of that and coordinated, facilitated, and made great progress on those efforts. And then the most current effort that's out there is the Office of the Commissioner of Higher Education's Recruitment and Retention Committee. And again, Angela has deeply been involved in coordinating what the efforts are of our connectors with the university system, because we're finding that there are many things around recruitment and retention that when we look at pre-service for teachers, pre-service for administrators, as well as the programming that's being offered to those that are in pre-service, and our connection with the university system really is the gateway to being able to put drops in the bucket of increasing high quality teachers available and high quality administrators available to serve our Montana schools. So with that, please introduce yourself, Angela.
Thank you very much, Dr. Miller. Good to see all of you here this morning. It's really been a privilege to get to work with Kirk and with Dennis and with several of you on today's Zoom on this very important issue. As Dr. Miller said, my name is Angela McLean, and I work at the Office of the Commissioner of Higher Education, where my title is that I am the Director of American Indian and Minority Achievement and K-12 Partnerships. And it's been really great to take both parts of those titles and to see how this important work about Grow Your Own dovetails both sections of the work that I get to do here at the Montana University System. And as Kirk said, we did convene the task force, and that task force moved rapidly, did very good and important work. And here in just a few minutes, I'll share some of the data around that work. And right now we're in the phase of this steering committee with several subcommittees to continue to focus on Grow Your Own. And we think it's a really important model, and we hope that we can share some good parts of models with each of you this morning. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Dennis Parman, Executive Director of the Montana Rural Education Association. We've been working on recruitment and retention in a very intentional, research-based manner for about 3 solid years now. I really appreciate the work that Angela has led from the Commissioner of Higher Ed's office. Working with our teacher prep programs in the Montana University System is critical, and they're certainly at the table with us, and they understand what's going on for you and have a good sense and doing their part to help with recruitment and retention efforts. I thought it was interesting. We had a Council of Deans meeting that I attended, I want to say maybe 3 months ago, and recruitment and retention is not just a K-12 issue. It's a higher ed issue as well, and it was good for me to hear that message and apply that into what's going on. And I have some things I hope you'll find of value that I'll share with you later this morning. Thanks.
want to thank both Angela and Dennis for joining this session and bringing their expertise to the table and their hard work over 3 to 4 years on the specifics of recruitment and retention of quality educators for Montana. I have up on the screen for your review the session page, mainly to point out where the resources are down here at the bottom. And these are the tools that we're going to be referencing for you, and just know that those are available to you just by clicking on this session page, and then let you know that the chat box is available. If you would provide questions in the chat box as we're proceeding through just very brief presentation of the different items here, then we want to open up a dialogue with what's happening in your specific school district and what you're seeing in recruitment and retention and how it looks different for this year than it has in the past, and whether some of the drops in the bucket that we're collectively going to describe are making a difference for you. That will be a value add of this session, of which is being recorded and then will be uploaded to this session webpage for your review after the fact, or for on-demand review of anybody who wants to jump in and see what the session was about. I'm going to start just with talking a little bit about Rise for Montana. And so I'm clicking on the document that's on the resource page and making it a little bit bigger. You can see that this is a one-pager report that went to a legislative committee, but it pretty much characterizes progress that's been made over about a 4-year period of time by Rise for Montana. If I click on this link, it goes to the web page on Rise for Montana, where I've already described the partners of MPEC came together, helped develop what the challenge of the goal of the people to establish a system of education, and that we're at a critical juncture of not being able to recruit and retain enough teachers that could fill all of the spots in Montana, and there's a variety of reasons for that happening. And so we all agreed to the core values. We invited also the university system deans and the Office of the Commissioner of Higher Ed to participate in Rise for Montana. And we established a solution, a statement of challenge, the solution, and then the core values that we stand behind. And within the core values, if you look at that, you'll be able to see we want to be able to while maintaining the quality of what we developed, the standards of the Board of Public Education that have been developed, and what the licensure standards are, and being able to do the very best in flexibility around what those issues are. And I think you'll see evidence of that in what we're about to present to you just briefly, so it gives you context of the progress that has been made. So that's the Rise for Montana page. The other thing that I would want to bring forward is to talk about these three, over a period of about 5 years, 3 administrative rule changes that have happened that were intended to increase the number of qualified educators that are available across the board. And so briefly, I'll talk about in 2017, Administrative Rule 1057-410 is the rule that allowed or grants a class 1, 2, or 3, so teachers and administrator licenses. If you enter the state with 5 years of successful experience in the area of endorsement, and you're documented by the recommendation of an out-of-state accredited P through 12 employer, in other words, a teacher who's coming from an out-of-state school district, their superintendent says has successful experience in teaching science in our state, then that license would be granted to that educator without the concern about what the background of their training, their program, all of the other things that help us retain the quality, quite frankly, of Montana educators. The basis of quality is really in the license of the educator across the state. And we have very strict standards around that in order to guard, and protect what the quality of the educator is. This was a rule of flexibility. We know that in the first year of implementation, 2018-19, there were about 30, I believe about 30 educators that came in and were granted their license under both administrators and teachers underneath that rule. I don't know for 2019-20 what that is, but we can get the data. The second rule that I point out to you is even more recent, a revision to establishing that a Class 4 educator license endorsement could be used by a high school teacher to teach a class in CTE, both for credit at the high school level and dual credit. And this was mainly targeted from the education standpoint at a high teach a course on the EDU 101 is what we most characterized it as, and it's an introduction to teaching as a profession that a high school student would be able to take, and then possibly have dual credit be to that student who's taking the course. And I think Angela and Dennis will describe a little bit more of what the metric of that looks like. This rule really out appropriately endorsed high school teacher to be able to teach that class at the high school level and have it be offered as a CTE credit, as well as also for dual credit in many situations across the state. And then the last rule that I'll just point out to you, which has been on the books since 2013, is the establishment of mentoring and induction programs to assist licensed staff in meeting the teaching standards that are defined. So all school districts, quite frankly, must establish a mentoring and induction program, which the research will bring to bear and say for retention, the establishment of a good mentoring and induction program for those that are early career is a key factor in helping that educator stay with your school district and continuing in the teaching position that's there. The last part of what I would like to present to you is legislation that has supported recruitment and retention over the last couple of legislative sessions. And if you click on the link that's provided here on that document, it's going to take you to two key pieces of legislation that have been developed. So in the 2019 session, a revision in House Bill 211 that created a loan assistance program to educators that are serving in high need areas. And without belaboring this point, this is a significant revision. There are dollars that were in the bill that will go to an educator that is serving a district in a high need area. And the biggest change in the definition, without belaboring this, you can go in and see the quality educator loan assistance FAQs and learn all about that, learn how you apply for, et cetera, is all right here on the web page. But the biggest change in the definition was that if you posted a position in your school district and it remained without quality applicants for a period of 30 days, that you could apply to the office. The form is in this, clicking on that link, that would then allow you to reopen the position and indicate that it qualifies for the quality loan assistance program, which in the end is a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 stipend, tax-free, that goes to the educator that's hired to fill the high need position. And then the school district has the opportunity of tacking on a fourth year of their funding of up to $5,000, so up to $17,000 worth of assistance to that educator that would be joining your district. And the legislation even saw its way through to, understanding that if you could get a teacher to stay 4 years in your district in a high need area, that would lead even to their tenure contract and might help with the retention issue moving forward into the future. And then also I want to point out the state dollars that are applied to the National Board Teacher Stipend Program. And that is merely making portable the ability of a nationally board certified teacher to teach anywhere in Montana, as opposed to potentially only in those districts that are stipending, or sending money to those folks that are nationally board certified. This legislation allowed you to pick up the dollars from the state, regardless if you're teaching in Plentywood or you're teaching in Webo or you're teaching along the High Line, or if you're in Bozeman, Billings, the other places that most nationally board certified teachers have migrated to those areas of large because they've been offered a stipend as a result of their training. This helps with the recruitment in rural areas, hopefully, as a result of being able to make that portable. So there's just some background. It might be of your knowledge, everybody that's on this, of all these efforts that are there. But I wanted to just take a couple of minutes and point out that through the work of Rise for Montana and our partners in the university system, those are some items of progress that have happened along the way. And I'm going to leave it to Dennis and Angela to talk about the future and what's being worked on and other progress that from their perspective that has been made. And so Angela, I'd like to turn this over to you and take us through what you'd like us to know.
Okay. So can you make it so I can share my screen really quickly?
I can. Actually, you have the ability to share, okay?
So I can't start while you're sharing.
All right, so I need to stop my share. Stopped it. There we go.
Technology is great when it works.
Wonderful.
As every teacher knows. So we talked a little bit about the task force, and what I'd just like to do is highlight just a few quick pieces of data. We had our Montana University System task force, of which Kirk and Dennis were both members, and so grateful for their time and their expertise because we moved mountains, I think, in a very short time. A couple of things that I just want to share with you. First off, as we look to our educator prep programs across the state, all of them, public, private, and tribal, it's very important to recognize that in the elementary, middle, and high school level, we are producing enough completers as per the Department of Labor data. We are doing so in all but a couple of areas. And I just saw Rob Peterson's chat to all of us about the VOAG and science teacher over up in Plentywood. In the areas where we tracked the data last April to October were business ed, family and consumer science, music, and tech ed. And in those areas, we did not graduate enough completers. Another result of our task force work was a great partnership with the regional education labs out of Oregon and a study about Montana educator mobility and shortages. And first off, a great big thanks to all of you for your participation and for encouraging your faculty's participation in the surveys that went out so that we could gather some data around this. And clearly, no surprise to you, we know that the folks in our rural, remote, and our rural distant fringe communities, many of these places where you folks from, have the biggest struggles to recruit educators to their communities. Now I'm going to try and get to my other screen here. The next thing that I would like to just point to is, so that task force moved really quickly. We did a lot of great work. A lot of the work, really was happening hand in glove with the work of Rise for Montana, with work that the Montana Rural Education Association was already doing, work that our partners at MFPE were already doing. So once we were done with that, we knew that we still had, based on our data, some key steps next to take. And so we pulled together a very small group of folks as part of a steering committee that would be led by our office in partnership with Montana State and the University of Montana. And so we have a steering committee and then 3 subcommittees. Those 3 subcommittees of this work are licensing, marketing, and grow your own. Because based on the data that we learned from the REL study and the data that we gleaned as far as where we were able to place our teachers, we knew we had some steps to take to be able to mitigate the shortages that befall many of our districts across the state. And so those were the really 3 targeted areas that we started to take a look at. The first one that I'd like to talk about before I turn it over to Kirk and Dennis to talk a little bit more about the licensure and the marketing committees is the Grow Your Own work. And so that group is made up of 5 of us from across the state. And one of the things that we started to take a look at right away, and I would encourage all of you to take a look at it at your earliest convenience, is the slideshow here at the beginning that Kirk shared with you as far as the resources for today's presentation. And it's a slideshow about Educators Rising. And really what it is about growing your pipeline where you live, starting with your own students, really getting our own students into our own profession. This slide from that data set, I think, is really powerful. Over 60% of our teachers work within 20 miles of where they attended high school. So case in point for Grow Your Own models. And so if we can work to grow our profession from our own communities, there's a lot of data to support that it will help to mitigate some of the shortages that befall us. A couple of things that happened as a result of the task force's work previously was a real concerted focus on Educators Rising, a real concerted focus on dual enrollment as part of getting our high school students into the educator prep pipeline. And I shared with each of you Dan Corrales' email. He's our dual enrollment coordinator from the Montana University system, and he can connect you with the right dual enrollment person wherever you live to see how you can roll out an intro to education course right in your own community as early as this fall. And one of the magical things that I've always said about an intro to ed course is that every single district, no matter where they are, should have somebody on staff, yourselves included, who is qualified to teach this course. And so you're not only growing the pipeline, but you're also giving your students dual enrollment opportunities where they might not already exist. Additionally, campuses across the MUS responded with Grow Your Own models. They were looking at the same data that we were looking at, the same data you've been looking at, and they really responded remarkably with grant proposals. And some of you at this point might have heard about the Masters of Arts in Teaching through Montana State University, and that is a federally grant funded program where you can take a person in your community who is interested in becoming a teacher but has some other bachelor's degree, and in 1 year's time, all online with the exception of 10 days where the student has to go to Montana State University, they can get their Masters of Arts in Teaching. And we're going to be placing our first graduates into their communities this fall for a program that just started a little over a year ago. So if you know somebody who is interested in the teaching profession where you live, they don't want to leave to go back to school, this really is quite a remarkable program for them. And I would encourage you to have them contact Ann Eubank, and I'll put her email up once I'm done in the chat. And she's at Montana State University and can get you lined up. Another one of the great opportunities that is really a partnership between our flagships to address the rural mental health needs is this program right here, the Rural Mental Health Preparation Practice Pathway. And you have the one pager here. If you know somebody who is interested in going into school counseling, I would strongly encourage them to check this program out. If they have questions beyond this one pager that you've been provided, I would encourage folks to reach out to Dr. Jane Downey at Montana State University, and I'll put her email up as well once I'm done here. One of the other things that I'm trying to pay attention to where folks on this Zoom call are from, to see if any of you live on or near our reservation communities. The University of Montana Western a couple of years ago launched a partnership, a 2+2, with Blackfeet Community College. And that has been a very good, fruitful, grow your own model. And just this last winter, the University of Montana Western partnered with the Little Bighorn College on a grow your own model right down there in Crow. And so some great opportunities right there where folks live. They don't have to leave Browning. They don't have to leave their communities to get the classes that they would need to seek educator licensure. Another good program that I would point you to is at Montana State University in conjunction with Great Falls College, another 2+2 that is preparing teachers. And then the last one that I would point you to is a great partnership between, is just a great opportunity for folks up at Stonechild College, where they're training teachers where they live to go into the Box Elder and Rocky Boy communities. And Salish Kootenai College also has an educator prep program, and so Grow Your Own is something that they have seen great success with there as well. And so I just want to circle back to the data that I shared with you. We recognize that our educator prep programs need to continue to do everything that they can do to make sure that we are supporting students once they come to us, and then take steps to effectively place students with effective student teaching models, partnerships on the back end, things like Dennis's Montana Rural Educator Fellows that incentivizes the student teaching placement and then prompts the district or encourage and supports a district to hire those student teachers. Those kinds of things are happening. But we recognize a need to continue to work with you, train teachers where they live in your communities, and then continue to work with you to address needs like Rob just shared, where he has the teacher, somebody who's interested, but then they hit a bump with licensure. And so I've talked a lot about Grow Your Own, but we recognize that there's a need to address shortfalls in educator licensure across the state that might help us mitigate some of these circumstances. And then also encourage some of these folks in our bigger communities or our students overall to consider a rural community placement. And as such, we have the marketing committee of our steering committee's work that is doing work around those two things. So Grow Your Own, licensing, and marketing are the three areas that we're working on right now to show you that we're continuing our work. And so what I'd like to do is ask Dennis to speak to what's happening with the marketing committee, and then ask Dennis, Kirk rather, to speak to what's happening with the licensing committee and some of the conversations they have heard, because I think what they're hearing are pieces and parts of what you have been sharing for a little bit of time now.
Thanks, Angela. As Angela mentioned, I sit on the marketing committee that's led by Adrian Lawrence, who is the Dean at the University of Montana. Tret Atkins is faculty at U of M, and also with Jane Downey from MSU. We've met a couple of times. Some of the things that we've done is try to identify folks that would be experts in marketing strategies, particularly marketing strategies with probably your more traditional students, because that will be our target audience. And then we've also done some research to try and find some programs around the country that are already doing some marketing and have some strategies employed, and take a look at what they're doing, trying to avoid reinventing the wheel there. And then the last thing that we've done is try to identify some resources that can help do some production work for us. Both campuses, both flagships, U of M and MSU, have media arts or film and TV programs that have done that kind of work and have done some real excellent work in that regard. I think that we have some funding in place that's going to help us. That's part of the work as well. And we're really looking forward to trying to get some things put together where And this is one of the things that from the Learning Policy Institute that we've been looking at MREA in terms of their research around recruitment is one of their strategies is around marketing and trying to get out and grab the attention of students. As Angela mentioned, the completer rate really in Montana, it matches really well with the need, even in terms of endorsement. One of the gaps that we see though is that anywhere from, depends on the campus, 10 to 12% of those completers never intended to stay in Montana, and they head back home wherever that is. And so there's that gap. But Montana, having said that, Montana is one of 4 states in the country that even comes close to what is happening in Montana, and we're really pleased with that effort. And marketing, I think, is going to be a key element to helping with us being able to move forward. Kirk, if you want to go ahead and talk about your subcommittee, and then if we could drop it back to me, I just have a few more things to add.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, Dennis. And I have served on the licensure subcommittee as referenced by Angela. That group is led by Ellison Harmon, the dean at Montana State University, Education and Health and Human Services dean. And the group consists of the licensure officers from the university system. And so the discussion has been very bold and deep around, you know, all of the potential barriers that exist around this blend of quality, ensuring quality, and trying to get as flexible as you can. We reviewed the use of micro-credentials, possibly toward endorsement or licensing, and made the recommendation that micro-credentials are great badges, you know, for certain preparation and training. They're great for professional development, but that this committee is not recommending that they be attached to a license of any kind because, again, of the quality control that would be necessary. So it'll be good if you have a micro-credential as a result of training, professional development that you have, that you call that out, that you've earned the micro-credential, but not necessarily be an add-on to your license. Secondly, we talked a lot about a licensure pathway for school counselors that don't have the teaching experience. And, you know, it involves to get an administrator's license, principal or superintendent endorsement, that you have to have 3 years worth of successful teaching experience to qualify for that license. And in fact, we have lots of counselors that are out there that are aspiring to be administrators that don't meet that 3 years worth of teaching experience because their counselor experience is not considered teaching experience per se. And so the complication around that is how do we determine measurement of the quality, because everybody agrees that to be a great administrator, being in the classroom and having that experience for a 3-year period of time is pretty critical to being able to operate. And so there's a look at what kind of flexibility could be provided in that specific instance. Third item is that the education preparation programs are looking at developing a special ed endorsement that could be earned as a standalone license. And this has all kinds of complications also in the special education and educator world, and Montana being a state that, you know, has to have a generalist approach to their special ed prepared educators. Otherwise we would never, I mean, that's our highest area of shortage right now. And so being able to develop something that would give you a special education endorsement and be cross-category and cross-grade level along the way is something that committee is looking deeply into. And then the last item that I'll say that is being worked on is directly related to what we do, and in the fact that administrators that come to Montana are required to get their license to take 3 courses on personnel management and collective bargaining, finance in Montana, and school law in Montana. And the feedback that that I've gotten over many years has been that that's a very tall challenge, especially for a new superintendent who's coming from out of state, coming to a new district and trying to develop everything that they need to do, and having to take 3 courses. And the feedback is that the courses are generally, you know, school law, finance is finance, and in some instances, collective bargaining is collective bargaining, and that the nuances in Montana maybe could be collapsed and offered as one course. And so right now that committee is considering what recommendations and how we can work with the university system to create you know, a mobile type of course that could be offered at our university campuses that would entail all 3 of those items that are necessary for licensure, and have that be distance delivered potentially, as well as you know, not as onerous as having to take 3 courses at the time where you really need to be focusing on your job, but yet needing to get the license without diminishing the quality of what that license means. So that's a lot of dialogue, but that committee is after some pretty specific, you know, really deep issues that have been impacting us for many, many years. So back to you, Angela.
Okay, so one of the questions that came up, or one of the issues came up, was one about internships, and I want folks to know that we're really taking a look in the Grow Your Own model about how we can best use our student teaching opportunities, and it's really something that I think our Ed Prep programs are leading the way on. They are very interested in seeing how we can use that student teaching opportunity in partnership with all of you at the local level when you are bringing on a student teacher to partner with them in mentoring this individual and supporting this individual, and taking a good look at maybe transforming that student teaching opportunity to a true paid internship. And while the conversations are early on in that regard with MFPE, we are having them, and I think folks are really showing some curiosity about how we can support you in this effort, because we know that you reach out to our Ed Prep programs looking for those student teachers who might be able to assist you as you're seeking to address your needs at the local level, and we're wanting to do that in a more in a way that will serve the student and serve your students in your community best without sacrificing an ounce of quality. And so I just wanted to circle back on that, and that really does conclude my report on where we're at with the steering committee. And so I would turn it over to Dennis to talk about the good work that he's been leading.
Thanks, Angela. A little bit of background on a couple of things that both Kirk and Angela mentioned. The counselor's rule becoming a school administrator actually was changed, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago now. And the reason that it was changed is because there was a pathway for, and one that we probably are more familiar with, for someone who has been a classroom teacher, licensed and endorsed in Montana, and became a school counselor. And so obviously they would have had teaching experience, but there was this other pathway where someone became just a licensed practicing counselor and was licensed by the state of Montana, who could take some coursework and become a school counselor. And then some of those individuals were wanting to become administrators and had never had any teaching experience. And so the rule got changed, but obviously I think it probably took that hole and tightened it too tight. And so certainly some review of that is warranted. The other one on special ed, I remember very distinctly when I was at OPI that there was a young woman in East Helena that had graduated from Idaho State University in special education, early education, reading, and she couldn't get licensed to teach special education in Montana. And one of the dilemmas that we had was, so do we take that very finely defined training that she got from Idaho State University and say, yeah, it's good enough for all of special ed? Or do we allow her to come to Montana and teach within the confines of what her background is? And and both of those presented problems. And so I'm glad to see that it's being reviewed again by the group that Kirk's in. Those are real important areas that we need to look at. I'm going to try and share my screen here if I can. That one. No, it wasn't that one. That one. Okay. I did something of a pilot program starting late May and have been probably mid-May and have been continuing with it, trying to find some strategies to help with recruitment advertising, getting the word out, trying to add more drops to the bucket, to the pool, and see if there were some ways we could capture more candidates. And this first page is questionable recruitment and advertising strategies. Maybe questionable isn't the best way to describe it, but I didn't feel like it was worth the money. You can see that I did some advertising with the Gazette, the Missoulian, and the Daily Interlake. As I note at the top, each one of those cost about $850, and they would like us to advertise $850. They would like to use $850 for a single position. They did allow me to advertise for a broad number of positions. Actually, we started with 22. And one thing I would note, though, is that you can see for each one of them that it wasn't just the print media, that they were going to broader circles. The Missoulian, they have a messenger, went out on ZipRecruiter and Google for Jobs, which is now Google Hire. The Billings Gazette did, they had the Recruitology, which was new to me, and they focused on the education category because of the type of jobs that we were advertising. I used ZipRecruiter. I really felt for the amount of money that they were wanting that it wasn't much different than the newspapers in terms of return. Google for Jobs at the time was being replaced by Google Hire, and or Google for Jobs replaced Google Hire, which was retired in June. It also cost some money. I might want to consider circling back to that one. These are some strategies that I felt were more effective, and I'm still currently using them. Contacting placement offices for the Montana teacher prep institutions, particularly the Montana University System programs, they're always very helpful. Handshake is an online service. It doesn't cost any money. I haven't seen a lot of schools, Montana schools, use that one. I have been our program, which I'm not promoting it as Montana Rural Education Association. I'm promoting it as a program called Teach in Montana that's sponsored by MREA. I'm recognized as a recruiter for multiple school districts on Handshake, and that's helpful. I'll show you a little bit what's come of that. MontanaHelpWanted.com is a new one, and we're testing that one out. That has a little bit of a price tag. School Spring is one that's new to me, but I'll show you here in a moment. There's a number of Montana school districts that use School Spring. It also has a cost, and probably the one strategy that I think has a long range potential is Facebook. And again, I'm promoting it as Teach in Montana, and I am spending a little bit of money on that to help get it out and do what's called boost the page. So I'm going to stop sharing that one and try another one here. We are, you should be seeing Handshake, sorry. This is a list of the institutions that when I post a job, it goes out to all of these institutions. There's 31 of them total. I've intentionally focused on pretty much the Mississippi West, not in all cases, but in most cases. Um, and not all of these institutions accept all the postings. For example, there's a couple ag positions. I think the one from Plentywood would be an example. Rob's on the line with us this morning that we've had on maybe one or two of these institutions wouldn't post it because they don't have any programming there. Um, I really don't know what the efficacy of this is. You've probably noticed that Montana State University is not on this list. And I don't know why, and I don't say that as a criticism. Carroll College is, University of Montana is. So of course, we're advertising with them. When I post jobs, this is kind of what it looks like. And but that's Handshake is one of them that I've used, that I will continue to use since I finally got recruiter status with them. This is helpwanted.com. We started with 22. When I posted this one, you can see that we had 14 positions that were open. And now it's actually down to 12. School Spring, here are, you can see some of the Montana schools that that are using School Spring. There is a fee. This is, I've gone in and I've done a search for jobs. I'm not sure what the Colorado Learning LLC is and trying to recruit for jobs in Montana. Maybe it's a private entity, but I have 3 jobs that are posted here, and I can't seem to, there we go. Well, this aren't the jobs. Actually, these I've gone in and I've said, look at the candidates that are available through School Spring, and I've scrolled forward to the ones on Montana. There aren't very many from Montana that are in School Spring, but I have 3 jobs posted there. Here's our Facebook presence, and this is what you would see. You can see I just posted this one this morning. There's 10 open positions, and I'll give you a sense of why there's only 10. The other thing that I'm doing that I think is gaining a little bit of synergy and drawing some folks to it is that I'm posting some things that I probably also will tweet, but I'm posting them here about, so what's it like in Montana to teach in a rural school district? And of course, these all are going to have a positive spin to them, but to give folks some idea of Montana, you know, to put some pictures and faces out there. What is it really like? You know, one of the most common comments, and there have been maybe 6, and I've probably had about 300 folks interact with the website as far as liking it. But it's, oh, the pay in Montana is so low. And I've responded to a few of them, but I've had other folks respond and say, you know, if the reason you're going to Montana is so that you can make more money than you're making now, then you probably shouldn't look in Montana. And they've kind of been able to speak to it from their personal perspective, so that I haven't. The second most common question that I've received on this webpage is, well, so how much is the pay? How much can I get paid there? And it's not an easy thing to find. What I've done on our website is, you can see here, these are the original 22 and the 10 that are left. But what I have done is I actually sent out an email to members and said, so would you mind letting me help you here a little bit? No cost. Any efforts that we do in this regard would be no cost. But I just take what the what's on OPI and I post it on our site, and I do a little cleanup. There's some things at the OPI site that if you use it, you're probably familiar with that it doesn't allow you to do. But even here, I mean, maybe it's not a great strategy to put what the entry level pay is, but some folks do allow that to be there right away. Others don't. I know it's a personal choice, and I'm not suggesting that it should be one way or the other. I just wanted to let you know that that's one of the common things that one of the common questions that I get. Let me bring that back up for you. I do have to share, I'm happy to share this with everyone as far as the information goes. Board of directors have asked that this be a members only service, and I don't tell you that because I'm trying to promote membership to MREA. But if you're not a member and you're wondering how you can participate, well, you have to be a member. So those are some of the strategies that I've been using. I can't tell you if any of my work has helped fill any of these jobs. I've tried to keep folks apprised of things that I have done and I've changed along the way as far as strategies have gone. And you can see we still have positions open. I did go take a look at OPI's website yesterday, and I pulled off all of the job postings for rural schools in Montana, and that were posted in July. There's 79, and I don't know if they're filled or not. Some of them are repeats for the same school district, but I know there's still a lot of jobs that haven't been filled yet. I think I'll leave it there because I think you want to open for questions, Kurt.
Yeah, there's some things in the chat, and one of the items that has come up in the chat is the Montana Schools Recruitment Project, which is a partnership of MCASE and OPI, about more than 10 years old. And so I'm just showing you reference on the SAM webpage, how you would get to the recruitment project. And so right here on the main web page, if you're interested in the recruitment of special educators for your school district, you click on the MCASE recruitment project, and Caitlin Sonder and formerly Lori were involved with this project, and all of the tools that are necessary to get signed up are available to you right there on that website. And thank you, Michelle, for pointing that out in the chat. So the other thing I think we should take a look at is, Rick, there's a response from Angela to the counselor recruitment and a project at the University of Montana and MSU, working in partnership that Jane Downey is working on the counselor recruitment project. And I think the reference is in the chat box. And I've lost my chat here so that I can see. Scott Kinney, a response about the administrative rule and maybe changing, and for, taking a look at more flexibility without a state teacher education preparation programs or administrator education preparation programs. Just letting you know that that's a topic of discussion also that's on the plate of the licensure subcommittee. And those are really delicate issues moving forward. And I don't know whether that rises to the level of making a change to administrative rule as it exists, but just know that that's going on. And my partners here, is there anything else in the chat room that you see that we could real quick respond to before we shut this session down? Teacher housing, Dennis, maybe you could talk about the efforts for teacher housing that have gone on over a period of time?
Um, Two things real quick. One, the School of Architecture at MSU, um, and actually a private architecture firm. I've worked with both of them about micro or mini housing. The private firm is very interested, and I'm doing some follow up with them over the summer. But you know, it's the age of COVID, so some of that has been stymied a little bit. So that's a model of a type of housing. The issue is funding, and I've been working with USDA, the office out of Bozeman, and there are some funding opportunities there. The biggest issue with working with USDA is it's so complicated. It's not a simple process at all. You have to have the patience of Job, and you have to have more time than I think any of us have to get through there. And I haven't been able to come across another funding source, but USDA continues to be a possibility. If maybe over time, if I can work with them, uh, we can maybe get some help from them in completing an application process. They're pretty driven by actually distributing the dollars that they have and getting that done, because that helps their office look good back in DC. And we need to try and get them past that. And Scott mentioned Ralph Johnson. That's who I've worked with at the School of Architecture in Bozeman, and he's great.
Great chat dialogue going on. MPEC partners, so Scott, around the housing initiative. Michelle, got it. Cindy Glavin asking about monthly online job fairs occur. Maybe Dennis, you want to talk about the virtual job fair that we participated in March?
Sure. On March 13th, so we all know what was happening then. We worked with the group that Kirk mentioned, and we worked with Eco Career and put on a virtual career fair. You know, when it was all said and done, MRA was willing to back the effort. It was a $4,000 price tag. We set up a pricing structure, and it didn't end up costing us anything, but it wasn't a great feel for me because it did cost school districts something. I don't know what came out of it. There was quite a bit of discussion around, you know, for $200 pre-COVID, this might be better than trying to get in the car and get a motel room and stay someplace. You know, considering what we're doing here right now, it's kind of hard for me to imagine that we couldn't collectively put together something that, you know, I'm trying to do a no cost as often as I can to anybody who wants to participate. And I mean, Kirk and his crew obviously have the background of putting on something like this that could very easily mirror an effort around a career fair. The key to success around career fairs is getting the word out to potential candidates, and that's really important. That's where I learned some of the things that I did about Facebook and Handshake. Getting that word out is the biggest piece in terms of any potential success. I think the technology of doing it, we got that one covered now.
So thank you very much. I want to offer a word of thanks to Dennis and to Angela for joining this session. There's a lot of information available in the chat room. This is recorded, and so it will be up on the webpage, you know, later this week. And I have the opportunity now of actually bringing the conference to a close here. with our group of 30. I want to thank each and every one of you for connecting to and joining in the SAM Virtual Administrators Institute for 2020. Certainly a different situation than we would have wanted to all be together, but yet hopefully there was some professional learning here that is going to be valuable to you. Your OPI renewal units certificates will be mailed to you at the end of October. And the way you generate that is filling out the evaluation. So for example, on the screen, if you would go to at the end of this session and click on this and fill out the evaluation, then that generates 1 hour worth of your renewal units. And you can use those renewal units with the live sessions that you've attended, as well as go back to any one of the 15 sessions that were offered throughout the whole conference and watch those on demand at any point. And that's why we're waiting until the end of October to actually generate and send you OPI renewal units, because it gives you 3 months basically to go in and take full advantage of the conference. I want to once again thank our SAM business partners who hopefully you went to the virtual business partner room and spent a little bit of time having some dialogue with those folks. They do good work and they're there to support education, and you can't be a SAM business partner at the level that you see here unless you're approved by the SAM Board of Directors as having met 2 criteria: what you service and opportunity that you provide, how is it good for kids and why does it benefit kids in Montana? And secondly, why is the goods or services that you provide beneficial to a member of SAM? And if they can answer those 2 questions and they receive the approval of the SAM board, then they become a business partner. And so those folks are certainly not exclusive, and they offer a lot of different things, but you know that they have been vetted and looked at by your board of directors at SAM to be a business partner. I hope that you'll use the services at SAM here and that you'll continue to return to the page. An example of how we'll finish out the conference is if you would go back to yesterday, and if you attended the standards-based teaching and learning, if I click on that, you can see that that page has been redesigned now, and here is the recording from yesterday. So if you didn't attend that session, you could go into that session, watch that recording, participate in the manner, look at the chat, all of the information that was generated there, and then you would go in and you would complete the evaluation on that, and that would generate a credit. You can do that on your own time. Our goal here at the SAM office, and it's going to take a little while because it takes a long time for all of those recordings to be able to be downloaded. And so we're hoping by the end of the week, and we'll be sending an email out to all conference attendees that said, the website is complete with all recordings, and please jump in and take a look at what's been provided to you at the conference. And so with that, you know, I just want to say, mark your calendar for next year for the SAM Administrators Institute. It's July 26th through the 28th of 2021. We're planning on Helena. We're planning on face-to-face, and we're planning on a great time of celebration because actually 2021 is the 50th year anniversary of school administrators in Montana. And so we want to have a great celebration included with our conference. And once again, thank you very, very much for attending your professional development and your professional learning conference. And we wish you Godspeed and the best in reopening your schools this fall, and know that SAM is here as a resource for you. Connect to our page, connect with me, and we're here to help with all things that you're working on. Thanks for joining.